Edge. I'm your host, John Light, president and founder of Sabretooth Recruiting. And today, I'm really fortunate to have Arjun Mahadevan with me. Arjun, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, you know what? Part of me almost wants to yell out, live from New York, since you're sitting up there in New York. And we can have some fun, but I don't think I'm SNL level funny at this point in my life. Arjun, I was hoping you could get us rolling to share a little bit about yourself and about the company you co-founded, that you're CEO of there, Doola, because I think your concept, this idea of a business in a box, is really intriguing. So can you share a little bit about you and your journey and Doola?
A lot of founders, when they want to start and scale a business, they'll first go to Google and they'll search how to start a business for my Amazon or Shopify business. They'll then find 6 pieces of conflicting, migraine-inducing advice. That's a direct quote from a customer. If they navigate that and then navigate the state website that looks like it was built in the AOL era, they then have to go communicate with the IRS to get a bank account or EIN for a bank account. Then, if they make it that far, they have to set up a payment processor, figure out their bookkeeping and accounting. Most people don't even know the difference. And then file business taxes, as well as track your business performance and analytics. So we decided, why not connect the dots? Create the Staples Easy button for starting and scaling an e-commerce business from anywhere in the world. And to date, we've helped over 10,000 entrepreneurs from over 175 countries with our business in a box, which doesn't just form a company and give you a checklist of things to do, leaving you felt like you've been thrown to the wolves, but business formation in all 50 states in the US, an EIN to get a bank account, and we do bookkeeping, taxes, and business analytics in-house so you can start your dream business and get to that first sale and then scale to 7 figures plus.
That's something that's needful. I got to tell you, I really think so. And I don't want to get too far out over my skis in terms of problems that you guys solve and all this. But I know my original background as an accountant and then moving into the headhunting business over 20 years ago has been in the energy business. And I know it's dirty to say in some circles, oil and gas business. But there's a lot of lessons learned from a business I think that's very technology dependent. I don't think people understand how dependent on technology that business is. But one of the lessons I saw at a macro level is that every time there was a decline in the industry, there are a lot of steep ups and downs, but every time there was a decline, a wave of entrepreneurialism would hit the market. People doing startups, engineers who had a problem they had specific domain knowledge on that they wanted to go solve. And one of the big hang-ups that I think that dragged a lot of people down is, how do you get from 0 to 1 and actually start the doggone business to where you can go do stuff? And so from that perspective, when I'm asking this next question, it could be about that or whatever, but I find it fascinating that we're at a time and a place, economically speaking, where a lot of people have been squeezed the past couple of years by layoffs and transition and changes in the economy. And so I have zero doubt there's this massive wave of people out there wanting to solve a problem, whatever that problem might be. And they become entrepreneurs whether they recognize it or not. So help our audience understand, Arjun, what's the biggest problem that you and Doola can solve for folks?
We actually think about it as before you go 0 to 1, you have to go -1 to 0. And I think that's important because oftentimes people get stuck mentally saying, I don't know taxes, I don't know bookkeeping, I don't know how to form a business, I'm not even going to try it, I'm not cut out for it. Truth is, no one knows that. I didn't know it until I started Doola, I'll admit it. However, once you've gotten the business set up, then it's about 0 to 1, product market fit, getting that first sale. Doesn't matter if you're raising venture or selling t-shirts on Amazon. Now, the biggest problem we solve is a lot of folks, businesses start as a side project in a garage with one or maybe a few people. That's how Google started. That's how a Shopify business selling keyboards starts. And your time as a founder is the most valuable asset. So our entire goal is, hey, rather than having 5 different places for your business back office, effectively, I think any business is built by bundling or unbundling. We definitely bundle. So you have your formation provider and LLC managed, your bookkeeping, your CPA with certified professional accountants, your analytics, sales tax registration, all in one place. So bundling is the key. And by bundling, we can provide a more cohesive experience. And there's efficiencies using tech, which are a better experience. Things are faster. And we can pass those savings along to customers too.
Well, especially when you talk about you've got 10,000 customers, 175 countries. I mean, kaboom, explosion, right? So who's most likely to be positioned for you to solve a problem for them? I mean, in a sense, in a marketing sense, once your idealized candidate profile or client profile, but in a pragmatic sense, if someone is listening to this and they're like, okay, I think this is a problem for me. Is this the guy to solve it? I mean, what would that person look like?
When COVID happened, many industries leapt forward 10 years overnight. One industry was e-commerce. No longer could you be brick and mortar and maybe have a website. E-commerce was the default. An e-commerce business is our bread and butter. I would argue most businesses today need to have some online presence, but if you are a Shopify entrepreneur or selling on Amazon FBA, Doola helps you get to that first sale, get your entity set up, but we specifically are built to help you scale your business to 6-7 figures plus with your bookkeeping, your taxes, your analytics, all in one place.
Nice. E-commerce being your sweet spot, are there other areas, segments, industry segments that would make sense for Doola?
There's a very long tail, meaning even though we are built for e-commerce, our business in a box has resonated with folks in real estate, or folks building a software as a service business. We've even helped companies that have applied and gotten into Y Combinator and have raised millions in venture capital as well. So while we do focus on our ideal customer or ideal entrepreneur within e-commerce, the reason for that is we made a very concrete decision. We can serve many people mediocrely, which still solves the problem, or we can solve for a select group and serve them spectacularly. And that's what we want. Ideally, we'll serve everyone spectacularly, but as a startup with limited resources, we're laser focused on creating this world-class experience, building this business in a box for e-commerce.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Educate me on something, though. You had a little bit of a journey to get to the concept of Doola. And I think it's intriguing. So I'm hoping maybe you could share a little bit about that, because a lot of people, especially people who are, how do you put it? They've been in the bubble of education and the news, and they hear about these really successful people who have become, sold millions in business or become billionaires or whatever it might be. And we have this idea that, well, if I haven't hit it out of the park by the time I'm 29, life is over. And the fact is, most businesses fail. Most struggle. I mean, since we launched Sabretooth, man, in Q4 of 2022, we've had some pivoting going on, some action, because we had to, because the market was giving us a different narrative than what we envisioned coming in, and you got to listen to the market. So I'm curious to find out, a little bit more about that journey, if you will, and what message would you share with somebody, be they in e-commerce or any other space, who's looking at potentially stepping into the entrepreneurial space?
I think the biggest mistake we made was not niching down early enough. And I think this is one of those unteachable lessons where if you want to boil the ocean, the best way to do that is to boil a tiny spoon first, not try to boil everything. And don't get me wrong, we've served customers on 175 countries, over 10,000, but I think we would have had faster growth and more reach if we picked one country to start and then replicated that model in other countries. So that's a lesson or reminder to myself, is the riches are in the niches. To create a ton of value, again, serve a single group spectacularly versus many in a mediocre fashion. Now, in terms of what I would say for someone stepping into entrepreneurship, I actually think entrepreneurship can be described by this concept of the many-sided die. So let's say, John, you and I each have a die, and it has 100 sides. It has many sides. And we don't know how many green sides are on each of our dies and how many red sides. And we start rolling the die, and John, you start rolling, and you're hitting greens every roll. And I start rolling, and it's red. But the catch is, every time you roll one green, another red side turns green. So as you're rolling greens, more greens are getting there. You started with 1, then 2, 2% chance, 3%, and I'm just stuck on red. But the truth is, if you keep rolling, eventually you're going to hit green. And I think that's entrepreneurship, where some people, they start with more greens. And that could be their background, their financial background, their knowledge. But the person who loses is the one who quits, the one who stops rolling. So it might take 5 years, might take 10 years, but if you keep rolling, if you keep testing and trying, and not just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, but actually iterating, I actually think anyone can crack entrepreneurship in solving a problem, whether you're 29, 39, 49, or 59. I don't think there's an age in entrepreneurship. There's actually stats that show older people are better entrepreneurs because they've learned more and seen more too.
Well, I resemble that a little bit and appreciate it very much. if I could put it that way. I talked to a VC, I don't know, a number of months ago, who told me one of his big criteria is he wants somebody with specific domain knowledge, and he likes to see a solid 20 years in that space because they are most intimate with the problem they're trying to solve. And I think you're pointing to, hey, can I boil the water in a spoon or a teacup versus the ocean is apropos, because at the end of the day, most successful businesses start off solving a problem, a singular problem. And I think sometimes we struggle with that because it's a matter of scale. And I mentioned earlier, people and engineers get squeezed out of the oil and gas business, or software developers product people get squeezed out of tech. And they have this intimate knowledge often with a problem that they believe they can solve. And they don't need to solve every problem, just that one, but they need to get it to scale. You know, solving a problem that costs $9.99 is very different from solving a problem that you can charge $9,000 for. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes when people look at entrepreneurs and they think, oh wow, yeah, man, I can do that. But then, you know, you forget or you don't know there's a price to pay. You know, there's hours involved, there's ups and downs, there's emotional energy management, techniques that you're going to learn, whether you want to learn them or not, right? I wonder if your business in a box should include, you know, like therapy sessions sometimes, you know, help people out.
It's true. Two of my favorite analogies for this are a startup is like chewing glass, and eventually you start to like the taste of your own blood. Incredibly morbid, but I think it does reflect, yeah, there's some pain and there's hard work involved. The other one is you're totally right in terms of front loading and the commitment. Ultimately, if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. You'll end up on your deathbed or later saying, I wish I tried that. That means there might be some nights you don't go out, some long days at the office, a missed vacation or what. But if you really want something, I do believe you got to keep rolling the dice. And I think anyone can do it. Again, it might take longer. You might hit more reds than greens, but it is doable.
Yeah. And I think there's also, you know, the element in there that it's not a bad idea to begin that journey by first positioning yourself for that journey, right? And part of that is getting a reliable partner who can help you through, to your point earlier, the -1 to 0 piece. And partners who can help you get from 0 to 1 and so on and so forth. But that initial partner to help you get there, to make life easier, because a lot of people don't go into it because, well, where's the next paycheck going to come from? And, you know, where's my benefits? Where are the benefits going to come from? Where's this going to come from? And, you know, the fact of the matter is, you got to prepare for that. You know, it's interesting. You read and see these things. These guys when they go into SEAL training, or they go into other training in the military, very specialized, very high level of physicality. They actually have training programs, kind of a pre-camp, if you will, to get people prepared for that, to get them ready for the onslaught that they're going to put their bodies and their minds through. And I look at, well, you go get a job in the domain you want to be in. You learn, you grow, you develop, you save money, you give yourself some stability, give yourself a platform, and now you can go iterate and have some fun. And especially with the right partner.
Completely agree there. You don't need to do it all on your own. Asking for help is tough, and I think that's a really important transition from going from founder to CEO. Or the founder, you're digging for oil, but then when you're CEO, you have to start building the oil rigs, which means digging for oil is fun, but you have to build the team around you, find partners, delegate as well. So you don't have to do it alone, and I think having the right partner at the beginning makes it more likely to succeed, although the chances are failure. But that's why if you want to go into entrepreneurship, it has to be a bigger reason than the odds of success. You're not really playing statistics, you're playing calculus, where you believe I can actually morph the world around me and believe that the world's more malleable than you actually think it is.
Well, one thing's for sure, somebody's going to be malleable. It's either going to be me or them. You know, we're going to figure it out, right, in that journey. Arjun, if somebody wants to get in touch with you and they want that partner to take them from that -1 to 0, to prepare that platform that they can spring their business from, man, what's the best way for them to find you?
Doola.com. Our team offers free consultations and demos around the clock. We are a global team. We offer free, no strings attached consultations. Our goal is we want to help guide you on the journey. I'm also active on all social media. You can look up Arjun Mahadevan, and I'd love to connect there as well.
Awesome. Arjun, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate what you shared today, and I got a hunch we'll be talking again soon, you and I.
Agree, and without further ado, like we like to say, let's do it.
I'm on that bus with you, man.